This is not working well.
Did that cut work? I hope so. Hi, welcome to this mess. This is not my first rodeo, in case you hadn't figured it out. This has been a thing that I tried like 10 years ago now, and I did a lot of experimentation back then, but now you're getting the fruits of it. So let's begin, shall we? Let's try this again. We're gonna start completely over. Was that cut convincing? I hope it was. So, welcome to this mess! This is not my first rodeo, in case you hadn't figured it out, or in case I didn't already write that in the script. I don't remember. I'm filming this first because I need to see how much of a disaster this is. This is my first and so far only truly functional homemade lava lamp, and you will notice it's not working. What this does, after a certain period of time, which varies depending on how it's feeling, is it works fine, and then after a while it becomes one giant glob of wax. This is one of the many things I have learned to improve, and I hope to with this particular experiment. The issue here is that the coil at the bottom is right against the edges of the glass. So unless the wax really hits the edge, it doesn't reform at the bottom. And what eventually happens is you just get this one big ball that doesn't touch the bottom, and then it's like this forever. Well, until you turn it off and let it cool. Or at least let it cool enough that it will come to the bottom. This lamp was running for about 10 hours and was running well. And then about an hour ago it did this. And like I said, it will do this until you turn it off. Or you could just take it off the base and let it sit somewhere else for a while. But that's one of many things we need to fix. But let's go over what exactly you need. We also will need a double boiler because we need to warm glass slowly. If you warm it too fast, it cracks. I broke a actual lava lamp globe long ago trying to do the same thing. And that one I was actually rescuing a broken lava lamp because the coil at the bottom had snapped, so it was sticking up at a weird angle. Now, paraffin wax is not dense enough to sink in water. It is simply too light because it's physics. So we need to add something to it in order to get it to sink. That something is in this jar. This special chemical is our key to making a lava lamp work. Now, this chemical, we'll talk about it in a minute, but for right now, I'm going to talk about coloring the wax. This is the thing that took forever for me to figure out exactly how to make work well. You will notice these commercial lava lamps, this one which is not turned on, have varying degrees of opacity to the wax. This red one, the wax is practically completely opaque. It is on, but the lamp doesn't really glow at all. The one in the middle, the wax is very translucent and it glows quite vividly, and the one on the right is somewhere in between. So what I wanted to figure out was, how do we make wax that is translucent? Because melted paraffin wax, if you aren't aware, is completely transparent. If you've ever lit a candle, you'll know that the wax at the top, it looks like a clear liquid. So if I were to simply use this stuff, which is for dyeing candle wax for coloring candles, it would work, but the wax would be clear. It wouldn't be translucent. That might look cool, but it's not something that I wanted to do. So at one point, if I have the bottle, what is in the wax in this wine bottle to make it translucent is raw titanium dioxide powder. It turns out not a great solution. It does work, but it never completely dissolved, and it's got weird chunks floating in the wax, and it has forever. What I thought would work decently well, and turns out works amazingly, is oil paint. Just the tiniest amount of oil paint mixed in with the wax is basically perfect. What I have here, these are some experiments I was doing last night, or maybe the night before. And of course, brown was on the table. And we are going to make one of these two wine bottles brown. Deal with it. But anyway, this is just wax mixed with paint. It mixed very well. And when the wax was molten, it looked exactly like this. It didn't change colors or anything. And this here, there's water below, and it does not mix. The paint does not leave the wax and go into the water. Truthfully, all I need is pigment. I do not need the oil base the linseed oil in this paint, but it mixes okay with the paraffin. And this is the easiest way to get a wide variety of different pigments that I know of. Maybe there's a better one. You can let me know in the comments. So, what is this? Well, it's this. Now, I'm going to cut back to the scripted part because we need to talk about the problematic nature of this. Now that we're back to this mess, a thing that I forgot to mention was this lava lamp, which again is brand new. It still has the little thing telling you it's going to take a while to warm up, so be patient, and I will turn it on so it will warm up as we do this work. It is a weird shape. Look at that. It's got a weird crimp in it, and I've never seen a lava lamp globe like this. I've had them, well, this one here is the same exact size. Watch, I'm going to pick it up and it's going to have that crimp, and I just forgot. Nope. Good, I'm not crazy. So this is the normal shape here. And this one they added this little crimp in it. I wonder why. But anyway, that lava lamp, the color combination on this one is pink wax with purple fluid. Let me turn it on. I've never really been a fan of that particular color combination, even though it's quite common. So that's why I bought it, because the other color combination was better, and I figured I'm not going to take that away from someone who might like it. But that's just my opinion. So what are we doing? What exactly are we going to do to make a lava lamp out of a wine bottle? Well, a number of things. This is an extremely finicky process, and yeah. I'm going to start by taking one of my wine bottles and sticking it in the water of this double boiler. And I'm also going to take this mason jar and stick it in there too. We're going to melt the wax in this mason jar and add the coloring to it that I would like to try. I believe for the first lamp, we aren't going to go with brown. We will start with blue. Lava lamp color that doesn't seem to be around is kind of a light blue with clear liquid. I'm a fan of clear liquids. I generally don't like the liquid to be colored. I think they're just more interesting when it's clear, because you can see the wax better. It's my personal preference, but that's what I'm going to do. So we are going to get these lovely vessels heated up. So I'm going to turn on this hot plate. And this is going to be a while, so I will now move the camera closer to me so you can see a little bit better of what we're doing. Is this mad scientist-y enough? Hi. Ooh, I've already screwed something up. I meant to take a baseline reading of how much this, well, it's not too late, the water's hardly warm. I have a scale with me because we're gonna need to do some math, and I will probably screw the math up. That's just how it's gonna go. But anyway, I want to know how much this weighs because I need to know how much paraffin I have put in it. 178 grams. I should write that down somewhere, but I think I can remember 178. Nope, that's a bad idea. I'm gonna write it down. On what though? This random Menards receipt, why not? That's not how thermal... Ooh, boy, I'm not prepared. Aha, there's dry erase markers in there. 178 grams. We'll get back to that. So we are, as I said, we are warming that up. Also, I turned this off so that we can get it to reset, which kind of worked, but I'm gonna let it cool down some more. You will see that it is now actually touching the bottom, which is good. You need it to touch the bottom because you need the wax to get hot and shoot up to the top and all that jazz. But oh boy, this is a weird video. So we're going to be mixing this brake clean with paraffin wax in order to get it to be just about the exact same density as water. Now we have some things that we can help should we get the ratio wrong. Kosher salt can be added to the water to increase its density. So if the wax will not rise, you can add some kosher salt. The reason why you want to use kosher salt is because it's non-iodized. It's basically pure sodium chloride. So again, it will not cloud the water. This water is still perfectly cold. Ha! So while I'm waiting for this to warm up, I'm going to get a fresh chunk of paraffin off of this block, which is very fun because I don't have good tools to do that. I would like it to be, this has been in a box for years and has gotten kind of dirty. Oh, it's not solid here. Interesting. No matter what I do, it's going to be a little dirty, so I'll just take... I think this chunk is pretty clean. I'll just scrape off some. This is a very messy endeavor. Another reason not to do it yourself. That's how you get paraffin out of a chunk. You stab it. I think. It works anyway. I will likely need more paraffin, but while this is warming up, we can discuss the coil situation. So, this lava lamp is using, I'm pretty certain, this spring, part of one. And here's where it gets a little tricky. If you do this wrong, you will get the spring to rust, or the spring will rust. And that's bad because then it gets in the water, it clouds, and it's all icky and gross. So, what do you do? Well, I hope this isn't too loud. Anyway, it's too bad. What do you do is, I believe, because this, again, this is fine. I think I covered it, I put wax in before the water, so the spring was always covered in wax and it's never touched water, basically. So we're gonna do the same thing for this one. But we are going to make the coil smaller than the diameter of the wine glass, or the wine bottle, intentionally, because as we have learned with this one, if it's exactly the same size, that happens. So we don't want to do that. If you noticed this plate hanger, the reason why I got this was because it's got a couple springs in it, and I wasn't sure if I knew where this was. This video is going to be a challenge to edit. It's no effort November. I needed something to cut this spring with. Should probably be using eye protection, so we'll do this. I'll cut it under the table. And now I want to intentionally stretch the spring. This is almost more frightening than cutting it. It'd help if I had pliers that fit it better. One stretchy spring! And now, this is probably about perfect, because like I said, you do not, as I have learned, the spring cannot be the same width as the bottle. It needs to be a little smaller than that. Now I just need to get these to get stuck together somehow. Great news! The wax isn't melting at all. This looked like it was working. Don't think it is. I know you really can't see what I'm doing. That's fine. Tricky thing is, it does need to not be able to come apart. Ow. No! I should probably mention that there is an alternate method to this that I want to try. That's one of the reasons why I'm doing 3 total lamps, or I hope to anyway. Woo! Turn that down a bit. No, stop. Stop. Shh. No. Bad. Oh, good, and I'm bleeding a little bit. Well, that seems more positive. This might end up being the better option. Except, of course, that's not round at all. Maybe it doesn't need to be. That's the other thing. I don't want to overthink this too much. This actually could be a very good shape. So, you know what? It's not really coming apart. I'm going to consider this good. Shove that in the bottle. Now it is sitting at the bottle, at the bottom. That is not super ideal. Okay, we need to enlarge that a bit. I mean, I need to enlarge that a bit. You're not helping. Oh, great. Can I use the spring to get it out? Don't know why I thought that could possibly work. I need it as like a hook. That water is getting quite hot. Felt the bottom of the bottle. Surprise. Paint can opener to the rescue. I am bad at this. Doesn't help that this is mildly terrifying procedure. Hope that wasn't too much. Good news though, the wax is actually melting. Oh, and this is, I turned that back on. Okay, so here's our new and improved coil, which is hopefully not gonna go right to the edges. It's not round, which is actually kind of good. I think I obsessed to get this one round, and that was, as it turns out, not a good idea. This is not my happy face. Now, perhaps I remember why I obsessed to get it round on that one. No! Stop it! Bad. It helps. Yell at your appliances. We've learned. We're just gonna force the two ends into each other. Probably what I ended up doing the first time. I just don't remember it. Except, of course, this isn't particularly easy. Doesn't everybody want hands-on experience with springs? Okay, this is what we call barely adequate, but it is pretty positively reinforced. The only thing you need to prevent or guard against when you form these is the solid wax when the lamp first starts, if it might bend this. But once all the wax is melted, this will not move. There's just not enough force being applied to it to move it. But this is pretty round and hopefully will sit flush at the bottom. How's the moment of truth? Okay, this is exactly what I wanted. It's kind of sitting in the middle a bit. I think this will work fine. How are we doing on the wax? It's melting. This is probably more wax than we need, but we are almost there. I am now going to stop the camera and let you know when we're moving forward. Oh, hello. I turned the camera back on because this thing's about to either flip over or have a spiky column of wax, and I thought that might be good to see. But also because I've completely forgot about a thing to mention. When I am looking for wine bottles to do this with, I have discovered that the punt, that is the thing at the bottom, you don't really want one. You want the bottom to be as flat as possible. If it has a really tall punt, that's the protrusion into the bottle, the wax, it doesn't really work right because you're going to need a lot more wax and it's never going to behave correctly. It might be okay, but I tried it with one wine bottle that had a very bad coil at the bottom. It was one of my many failed experiments, and it tended to just stick to one side. You'd get one glob that would stick to one side and come off of the other side because you had this big protrusion in the middle, basically, and you couldn't get it to form back into a big glob at the bottom. So, food for thought. And of course, you can see that this lava lamp is working again. It looks quite nice. There's another ingredient which we haven't talked about yet, but we'll get to that at the very end. But as it so happens, this is almost ready to add coloring to. There's just a sliver of wax left, so I'm going to get that prepared. Again, cheap oil paints. Maybe better oil paints are better, I don't know. But here's what I have found to work the best. You want to get just a bit of paint, like maybe the amount that you would put on a toothbrush. Well, you'd put toothpaste on your toothbrush, but you know, that amount. And so there it is. Get a popsicle stick, And just smear that around real good. Okay, and now I would get a second popsicle stick because you need very, very little paint to get the coloring. So I'm going to take this out. This is not water. This is wax. This is paraffin wax, our favorite. And I can see it's got a little bit of impurities in there. Well, we won't worry about that because you, for the most part, won't be able to notice it in the lamp, I think. Plus, you know, good to experiment. But anyway, going to take our fresh popsicle stick and just get a tiny little bit of paint and then stick it into the wax and just kind of move it around. You don't really want to have the paint fall to the bottom, which it will usually do, but if that happens, it's no big deal. You really do need to get a lot of mixing action going on no matter what. So this is really, the reason why this works is it's kind of like, you know, what you want is the color of like water that you clean your paintbrush off in. Splashed a little bit, try not to do that. But you want it to be, and that consistency is murky, translucent, but still pretty vibrant as far as color, which is exactly what you want. I'm underestimating and forgetting that when I did this test, I had just a tiny little bit of wax, so I am going to need much more paint than I thought. But the key is to do this slowly and to not let the paint just form a clump at the bottom of the glass. So you want to keep scraping it off of the glass and keeping it suspended. And again, we don't really care about the paint base. If I could, I would just get pigments and go straight into the wax, but do not have that option. But you can see we're getting plenty of color. It's not transparent, it's translucent. Exactly what we want. And just keep doing this. It's a little bit tedious, but this whole process is tedious. For those curious, this is cobalt blue. I don't know if it's actual cobalt in here because it says cobalt blue hue. Yeah, so it turns out for the quantity that you want to put in a lava lamp, you probably might as well use that whole toothpaste quantity. But again, the challenge is it sticks to the glass at the bottom, and you don't really want that. It's not the end of the world, but you want to get it suspended in the wax. You don't want it to be sticking in chunks to places. This is a pretty good color. I'm not really looking for a very dark blue. I'm looking kind of like not a light blue exact. This is what I'm hoping to achieve. And I guess I'm close to that. Surprised the paint is actually kind of already drying. There's a lot that's not mixing well at the bottom now. So I'm going to try to get that ground up. Let's see what we got. There's just a little bit of flex down there. So I'm going to call this pretty well mixed. This is a pretty good color. I think this is kind of what I'm going for. You know what, on second thought, I would like to get it darker because I do have the illusion of this being a large quantity that it may look to be darker than it will appear to be. Like little globs might be very light and pale. Know what I'm talking about? I don't. I actually kind of regret saying not to let it touch the glass because it looks like that's actually better, is to just smear it into the side of the glass and kind of pulverize it. And then it will start to, I don't know exactly if dissolve is the right word, but break apart, become suspended, all that. And you can probably tell that the wax on the walls of the jar is solidifying. I'm probably going to start doing that as a whole, and it might be getting harder to stir because of that. So that's something to consider. I'll just grab the rest of this paint that I put there as much as I can. I still have hardly put any in here, for the record. It's mostly just been little quantities. Yeah, I'm going to stick that back in the water. And now I'm going to run upstairs and get a coaster because I did not think about the next thing I need to do. Okay, the other thing that I just did is I added a bit more wax because I think I want a little more than this. It's hard to judge volumes. It doesn't really matter in the end, but you can't have too much or too little. Oops. Now don't mind me, I'm just doing some math. Okay, so there is no way the math that I just did is correct. Either the specific gravity of molten paraffin, which is what I'm trying to find out, is not at all... And 0.91 seems too high, because when it melts, it expands a lot. So, yeah, that makes more sense. I'm going to assume that it's like 0.8. Just found something that had a chart. How useful. So if it's 0.8, and we have 97 grams of paraffin wax, roughly. 97 grams of paraffin wax. That means this is about 2.25 times as dense as paraffin. And if we got to go from 0.8 to 1, assuming there's no change in volume, then we need this is complicated math. It's not that complicated. I'm just not very good at math. So 1.62 minus 0.8. So I have 0.82 is the difference. So that math, I did the math the same way both times. So it is looking like with this quantity of wax, which is about 97 grams, assuming adding this does not increase the volume of the wax, which I'm not even sure is the case, but assuming it doesn't, we need about 9.8 milliliters. And that's why I have these syringes. Now that doesn't sound too off from what I had done before, but again, that is if it does not increase the volume, which I feel like it does. I don't think it just dissolves. That was cute. There's a bit of water still in this syringe. Let me try to clean this out with a paper towel, get that water out. Better yet, I think, Q-tips. I don't need to get all the water out of here, but I have to get most of it. And the other fun thing is, I don't know if Brake Clean will melt this. That'd be cool. But we're going to add 9.89 milliliters. Hasn't melted so far. Just going to add that straight in. This is really hard to push, so I'm assuming it is reacting with the rubber or something. I don't really think the volume went up at all. I wasn't paying super close attention, but I would have expected it to rise, and it really didn't. So I'm going to put this back in the water. It's weird, this is moving now fine. Okay. I'll let that evaporate and close this back up. I feel like we need more than that, but I'm going to try this amount first because I have a pretty solid idea of what to do if this is not the correct amount. And now the moment of truth. I have a different funnel that has already been used for this. I'm going to get that. Okay, now this is the remnants of an idea that I tried, and I do not remember if it was a good thing or a bad thing. To minimize the wax splashing on the sides of the bottle, I had added this thing to the funnel so I could fill it right to the bottom. I'm not going to use this because, truthfully, I want to find out if it was actually necessary or not. But I'm going to keep that in case I need to do it again. So now, moment of truth. I'm going to pour this concoction into the wine bottle. Really should have like a, you know what, I'm going to get, oh, I've got that towel. It's just kind of hot. You can see the funnel. Good for you. All right, here we go. Cross your fingers. This smell is bringing back memories. This chemical doesn't smell particularly pungent, it's slightly sweet. And that is about exactly the right amount of wax for my taste. So now I'll stop the camera again because we need to heat up some distilled water and add it to this glass and see if the wax floats or sinks. Hopefully it kind of just does both, but we won't know until we try. Okay, I really do not think that was enough brake clean, so I don't have very high hopes, but this is some warm to hot distilled water, which is only warm to hopefully not cause the wax to solidify and also prevent the glass from breaking from thermal shock. I knew that was gonna happen. This is not a good vessel for pouring. But, as I suspected, the wax is just floating. No bueno! Let me do this over a sink or something. Hang on. Let me clean up my massive spill. Okay. Okay, so that, unsurprisingly, did not work. I have added, it's solidified because I just added cold distilled water to get it up to about there. And now I'm going to let it sit on the lamp base and warm up. I'm pretty pleased with the color. It's a light blue. It's kind of what I was going for. If you wanted to make it a darker blue, it would probably be easier to add candle making dye to accomplish that rather than to keep adding more and more and more paint. Or perhaps adding black paint would be a better solution. But I'm not bothering to go that far because I'm pretty happy with this. But now I'm going to get it hopefully back up to a temperature at which that wax will melt. The other complication is I believe the brake clean lowers the melting point of the paraffin. Not sure about that, but I'm pretty confident that that is in fact the case. Now it's still molten here at the bottom, so I'm confident this will melt. But now here comes the part that I think will really make this a lot easier for me to accomplish. But now we gotta stop. Okay, so I've had lunch and it has still not really melted at all, so time to speed that up. This is actually working slowly. This is so exciting. So I stopped it because I want to explain what's happening, which is really quite interesting, is that there's little bits of water that are stuck in the wax and they keep forming bubbles, what look to be bubbles that sink. It's kind of interesting. But yeah, literally I just need to get the wax at the top to all melt. And because it's farthest from the light bulb, it's not really melting. And I know for sure there is not enough of the brake clean in it because it is way hotter than it should be to need to melt. But we're almost there. So it is now time to execute the new and improved part of my plan. It turns out that you can just go on Amazon and buy syringes with like actual needles on them. And what I wanted to try was trying to get some of the brake clean into this syringe and going directly into the wax. So that's what we are going to do. This only feels, very dangerous. I suppose I could just use the tips on that. Well, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Where is the brake clean? It's over there. That didn't at all go to plan. So let's inject the brake clean into the wax. I was a little afraid of that. There's probably bits. Oh, that's not completely molten yet. Oh no. Well. So you gotta add this really slow and also agitate as you add it. But it is clear that I did not put in at all enough. There's still this big glob of solid wax. But this idea is working. It's just my word was my math wrong. And that's happening. It's pushing some bits down to the bottom. I was hoping this could happen more uniformly. So this may end up to be a terrible idea. But you never know until you try. But let's go back to the hairdryer and try to melt that glob. And also let's see if I can get the wax off of this. No, so that's only going to work once. Cool. I should put the cap back on so I don't prick myself with this questionable chemical. But anyway, back to the hairdryer. Just realized I haven't put that back on. Could smell it. Now I can't. Okay, after all that, we finally have it completely melted, I think. Boop. There fell a bit more. So my math was very wrong. That's fine though. This is a learning experience. But what I am going to do is hopefully this needle will fit on this bigger syringe. Hey. It will. Cool. I have a feeling I'm going to need a lot more than just 3 milliliters. It is really hard to push brake clean through this syringe. I suspect it's reacting poorly with the rubber seals. Oh, that barely fit. Now see, I don't want that to happen. Maybe it's all right. But I don't really want it. I wanted to mix more well. This isn't working so well. Well, it was worth a shot. Ha ha ha! Ooh, great pun! It's worth a shot. Good golly. Suppose I'll just add this directly to here. Just a slow drip. Oh boy, I have no idea how much of this you're ever going to see because I've almost filled up an entire memory card with stuff for this video. Now, problem is it's starting to re-solidify up there. Okay, I'm going to try something which I will probably regret. And that is inverting the bottle to mix it better. The thing is, it's so hot. I would have imagined this to start mixing better. Where's my towel? It's still floating. But that mixing was definitely necessary because the water line has gone down. So Brake Clean does not mix. It does add some volume, but less than it seems. This isn't too awful bad. So it is now very, very clear. My math was awful. Oh boy. I've added more than double what I thought I would need to add. And the thing is, we can recover from overweighing the wax. I think we're getting somewhere. Okay, now I want to mix it up. I'm probably going to need to let some water out of this. That is actually significant progress. And we're gonna have to do some repairs to this because the way it's sticking to the glass is not ideal. But we're almost there. This is very tedious, but we're almost there. I'm going to stop recording, put the sprinkling lid back on, which I keep forgetting about. And I'll be doing some finessing while you stand by. Okay, we are at the point where I know what I need to do, and hopefully it will work out fairly well. But this is... that was weird. Huh. This is cooled down enough to where the wax has re-solidified. It's still quite warm. And now we have to fix two things. One, the wax is sticking to the glass. Now that can be kind of fixed in large part by shaking the bottle. But the other part is related to the first one, and that is, nope, totally wrong. I'm starting again. Okay, so we are to the point where the wax... All right, so here we are. The wax is re-solidified. This is still pretty warm, but it's not hot enough for the wax to be melted. And we have a few things to fix. For one, there definitely needs to be water taken out of the bottle. There's just that much air space left, and that's a little uncomfortable for once this is finished. The other thing we need to fix is twofold, and it's going to have the same solution. Wax is sticking to the glass. Now this is bad because you don't want that to happen. This can happen to commercial lava lamps, and there are certain ways that that they suggest repairing that. Wrapping the bottle in aluminum foil so it gets really hot is supposed to fix that. I've never really tested that myself, but the other thing we need to do is when you shake this bottle, you can get the lava to get into tiny little beads, and they will immediately come back together. Well, not immediately, but very quickly come back together. That's bad. We want them to be able to hit each other without actually deforming or combining. You only want them to combine back at the bottom when they hit the coil. How do you fix that? Soap. You just need to add about a drop of dish soap to the water, and that will decrease the water surface tension, which in a way increases the wax's surface tension. Don't really understand the mechanism behind that. I just know it's necessary, and that will help with the sticking to the glass somewhat. So we need to add a drop of dish soap, and then we need to put this back on the base and add kosher salt until we get the wax to start to float. This is not a process that is easy. If I had a way to know exactly how much, like I'm sure the factories that produce these lava lamps, they just crank these out because they have like a recipe and a formula. But as someone who has no idea what that is and is just doing this as trial and error, it's really annoying. So I already know this video is nothing like how I expected it to go. So that's fun, and we'll just have to see how I can put this together in the edit. The other thing that I want to do, though, which I will do, let's see. I'll add the soap, I'll pour out a little bit of water, add the soap, and then we'll move on because I want to empty this. I want to open this up and empty it into a container because I want to actually look at the wax to see if I can determine, is it actually what I've just created? Is it in fact paraffin with trichloroethylene in it? Because I have a sneaking suspicion that might be exactly what it is. But there's really no way to know unless I can get it out of there and play around with it and smell it. I'm hoping that I'll be able to smell it, but we'll see. Anyway, it is now what, 4:35? I've been doing this one lava lamp for like 5 hours. Large part of that is because I'm trying to be filming, but this is just very slow and tedious work. So, dump a bit of water out, get the soap, put it back on the base, and then we will try to get the density correct. Sound like a plan? After literally an entire day of various experimenting, I have a process. Now, this total failure. Something weird has happened over here, but oh, look at that. But it hasn't, something weird has happened over here. Something weird has happened with this one, and it's shedding. I don't know. I let it cool down and then turned it back on, and it's gotten cloudy and it's kind of weird. So it may recover, it may never recover. It's not that warm, which is weird. And I'm already finding out that the oil paint is not the best solution, but here's the process as I have refined it so far. This lava lamp base has water in it and it is hot. This water has soap in it and probably too much soap. I'm not certain if it's too much, but these suds aren't really going away. So fun, but we're just gonna roll with it because you gotta have the soap in there first to keep the wax from sticking to the glass. Yes. In here I have yellow wax, and I have not yet added the brake clean to it. And I'm going to add some brake clean, but almost certainly not enough for this to sink in water. Where's the syringe for the brake clean? Nope. Oh, it's right here. Okay. Now, if it turns out that was too much brake clean, that's fine, because that's where we're going to end up anyway. Also, this is almost certainly too much wax for this lamp, but we will see what happens. So now, don't need you to be on anymore. Now is the fun part where we pour this molten lava into the lava lamp and hope for the best. And of course it sank. First time that's happened. That's okay though. That's perfectly fine. In fact, in some ways it's good because we can just see that yes, I definitely should add more. Guess I'm going to add the whole thing. I may regret that, but I don't think so. So, two things that are good. The lava has sunk to the bottom, and it also has not solidified, so the water is warm enough to keep this a liquid. You can remove the funnel. Thanks for dripping. And now, you don't need the brake clean anymore. So we are done with this all together. Now, this is incredibly saline water made with a ton of kosher salt. So this water is denser than the water that is in this lamp right now. And what we're going to do now is we're going to add it slowly until that starts floating. I have a different syringe for that. So over here. I actually got pretty close with the density I needed for the wax, because if only one of these has produced that effect, that's good. And we may very well need to remove some water from the globe. That's fine if we need to. The fact that it's kind of pooling back together so quickly says to me that it is definitely still much denser than the water. Fun. So for sure we are going to need to remove water from the globe before all is said and done. So let's start doing that. I'm actually lucky because this time, when I was doing this for the brown lava lamp right next to it, there was a lot of wax at the top, so I couldn't just use the same syringe that I was filling it with the salt water. And this should just be water. With a bit of soap. It's looking more promising. Probably shouldn't be injecting it that fast. It's a little violent. But that does make sure it mixes, so we're getting close to where it's to where we need to be. And you can see that this lamp is working. It's just cloudy and there's weird stuff floating around that hopefully stops. But it should probably have more salt solution as well because it's barely working. Okay, there's good signs at the surface here. Some stuff is bubbling up. Now they are just bubbles, but this is good because it means that we're kind of at that point where the buoyancy is the same. Definitely need to remove more water, so might as well just do that. We're getting activity at the surface of the wax, so we're very close. I don't want to add too much more salt water. I'm going to start with just half the syringe. I hope you can see this on camera because this is behaving beautifully. It's just the water's all gross. And I may be able to... I think what has happened is some of the wax didn't really get the right amount of brake clean and has just come off to the top. So I'm hoping that if I just get this really much warmer than the lamp base can get it, that it'll get better. But yeah, we got a bulge. It's working. I would add a little bit of the saline, but I want, because this is cold, the lamp could get a little warmer. But man, look at that. That's a real lava lamp. That's what lava lamps do. None of this vegetable oil and water kid stuff. I'd only have to deal with mildly toxic chemicals. Seeing as it just keeps kind of getting up and then going down, I will add the rest of this. We can always reverse it by by just adding plain water. That's less than ideal, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, I think we have proven pretty well that this method actually works, and it is great. I should look at the camera because the lamp looks much brighter in the image than it does to me. So let me make sure that you're actually seeing this. Oh yeah, you can see it. In fact, to you, the brown one looks better than it does to me, so.
has just air.